Okay, I'm back.
Yep.
Okay,
You know, uh,
so Cedar, how did you determine that all the facts that you're acquainted with do not stand in causal relations or necessitate referencing God?
Again, you got annoyed at me before, and I'm not trying to troll. I just want to clarify. Are you asking me what methodology I used? Is that the
No,
question?
no. I
What
want to
can you
know
can you
you have you made a determination that all the facts that you're acquainted with do not necessitate referencing God.
well, yes, because
All right.
all of the things that I've
How did you determine that?
well, like, okay, again, it seems like you're asking for my method. Is that what you're saying?
I'd like
Is
to know
that's
how
really what
you
it seems.
came to that I would like to know how you came to that conclusion.
All right, well, I'll do my best to explain. So every time I was presented with an argument or evidence for God, using logic, and I think maybe this is where you're going, using the logic that I am acquainted with, I was able to identify logical fallacies or problems with the arguments or things like that. Is that what you're asking me?
No, that's not what I'm asking you. Basically, what you're responding to the question with a variant of quote unquote I'm unconvinced. Now, your position is not simply or merely that you're unconvinced. You've decided that all of the facts that you are acquainted with do not necessitate referencing the necessity of God. You have decided that, right?
Yeah, okay, but like I'm
Good.
saying, like
Now,
I've been presented.
can you please explain to me how you arrived at that conclusion?
So as I tried to explain, over the course of my life, I've been presented with various facts,
You're
and
repeating yourself.
I don't know what else to tell you. That's the answer. That's how
Okay.
I arrived at that conclusion.
If I told you that all the facts that I'm acquainted with necessitate referencing God, you would say, "Well, how did you arrive at that conclusion?" Right?
Sure.
Good. So
Okay.
that's the question I have for you. I would like to know how you arrived at that conclusion
Well,
because
I mean,
neutrality toward God is not an option.
I know that's your perspective. I don't agree with that, but
No, okay, well then we're going to have to discuss that. Okay,
all right.
you cannot be neutral towards something that is in the category of the ultimate transcendental necessity. Okay, because either you will affirm or you will not affirm it, which is an indirect denial. Right?
I mean, I understand that dichotomy that you're drawing, but
Okay, are
is
you?
it hang on.
Listen. Is it a true dichotomy?
In the sense you're framing it, I guess.
Good. Now, what I'd like to know for you, if it's legitimate for you to say to somebody, how did you determine that all the facts that you are acquainted with necessitate referencing God, then it's also equally reasonable of me to ask you that question.
No, I understand. I'm not saying you're being unreasonable in asking the question. I'm just trying to answer it as best I can. But can we address, because I think the core of the problem here is this dichotomy between, affirming or denying supposedly this necessary God. Yes?
Okay. You have decided that facts do not stand in causal relations to God, right?
I don't see the evidence for the causal connection between the
Okay,
facts I've been
okay.
acquainted
So
with.
you've decided that facts can be invoked as actual and intelligible without reference to God, right?
Sure.
Okay, so then that means that those facts are standalone with respect to God, which means God is not necessary.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Okay, how did you determine that God is not necessary?
Okay. As I sort of tried to touch on before, is that it seems logical and obvious to me that something must be necessary. But
That's
first
not
of
an
all,
answer to the
hang on,
question.
I know, but can I finish? But what I want to ask you is, what is God to you? Can you define God
Okay,
first?
this is the little game that atheists play. What you're
I'm
doing
not
is you're
playing a
doing
game.
okay. Well, this is what atheists do all the time. It's bait and switch. I think you know very well what we mean by God. God would be that which is eternal, ultimate, absolute, and the creator, and of all temporal um, possibility. Okay. Now,
Sure.
the point is simply this: you've decided that facts can be invoked as actual and intelligible without the necessity of referencing God. You've decided that, right?
Okay. Now, can I? Yes. And can I
Have
ask?
you, good. Now, could you please explain to me how you arrived at? Now, could you determine Is the only way to determine that facts are unrelated to God, is the only way to do that would be to first to determine that God doesn't exist?
No, I don't agree with that either. But can
Okay.
I please ask
No,
a question?
well, here's the problem. If you don't first determine that God doesn't exist, then could you rationally justify that facts do not necessitate referencing God?
I know where you're trying to go, but I would like to ask a clarifying question,
Okay.
please.
Okay. I would like you to answer my question. Is the only way to make the determination that facts don't necessitate referencing God is that one would first have to determine God does not exist? Is that the
No,
only way to do? Is that the only way to do it?
no.
Well, if you don't determine first that God does not exist, then how could you possibly determine that facts are unrelated to God?
Because it depends what you mean by determine. If you mean no in the absolute sense, then obviously I
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah,
know in the
dude,
absolute sense.
you're speaking. Listen, you're speaking gobbledygook. Listen carefully, okay?
If you're
If
just
I
going to repeat the same
if I if
question,
I if I I'm repeating the same question so that you can understand how you're dodging and evading the question. Listen
I'm
carefully.
not. I'm not.
If I first determined
Yeah, I get it.
God does not, why are you so fucking rude?
Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, you are. You know what? You are fucking rude. You're an obnoxious person and you're deceitful and you're evasive.
Okay.
Now, don't overtalk me.
Okay.
Now, if one first determined that there is no God, they could say consequently, therefore, that facts do not stand in causal relations to God. Why?
Sure.
Because God doesn't exist.
Great.
Now, if you don't determine the falsity of God, could you then, with the failure to substantiate the falsity of God, could you then say that facts do not stand in causal relations to God? Could you stipulate that and defend it?
No, you couldn't. In the absolute sense, you would have no grounds to say that.
Good, good. So, do you have grounds to say that facts do not necessitate referencing God?
Not in the absolute certainty sense. No.
Good. Well, first of all, this is what you atheists typically do in a knee-jerk fashion. You want to change the subject over to a discussion of certainty. I'm not discussing levels of certainty. I'm asking you, you hold the belief that facts do not stand in causal relations to God, or to put it differently, that facts do not necessitate referencing the necessity of God. That's your
Yep.
belief, right? Now, how did you arrive at that belief?
And as I've tried to explain, I don't know for certain. I don't have. I'm not making an absolute.
Are you not
Can
listening to
I,
me? Are
can
you
I
not
res-
listening to me? Are you not listening to me? We're not discussing certainty. That is a separate, unrelated question. You
See, this
hold
is
a
why.
belief. You hold a belief. Listen carefully. You
Yeah, I
see
get it. Don't repeat
what
yourself.
you don't like. See what you don't like is your rhetorical repertoire doesn't work. Okay,
No, what
I've
I don't like.
heard. Listen to me carefully. How many
You keep
eight?
interrupting me. You don't
Go.
even let me
How many?
respond.
Okay,
You don't even let
you
me
know what?
respond. Yeah,
Fuck
good.
off.
Yeah,
Fuck
great.
off.
Fuck you. You suck.
Yeah, these guys are the biggest damn liars. Okay, they come in here. They come in here and they want to say, "Oh, I want to have a conversation with you," and then he dodges, 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 dodges. Fakes, phonies, and frauds. Every single one of them. Okay.